I was at the Walter Reed Army Medical Center Pharmacy. Needed to get a prescription filled. I went to the pharmacist and I showed him the prescription and he said, "This is fine, but I need you to verify your eligibility." There was a young soldier sitting at the desk on my right. So I walked over. The gentleman downstairs said that you could help me verify my eligibility. She didn't even look at me. She grabbed that paper out of my hand, flipped it over, slapped it down on the desk. She pulled open her drawer, pulled out a stamp and an ink pad, inked up that stamp, stamped the paper, threw it all back in the drawer, shut the door, and handed me the paper. There's a little voice inside my head saying, "Don't ask." But I never listened. Aren't you supposed to verify something? My job is to stamp the paper. Now the little voice is screaming at me. My wife was standing in the door and she was going, "No." But I couldn't help it. I had to. If that's all you do, why can't they do that downstairs? She looked at me for the first time with that look that youth has mastered, that says, "You're dumb, and I have to deal with you." And she said, "They don't have the stamp." Because it had nothing to do with her age. It had nothing to do with when she was born. Somebody sat her there and didn't tell her what she was doing, and didn't tell her why it was important to do it, and didn't give her the tools to do it with. It had nothing to do with generations. It had everything to do with leadership. And that's why I believe that the whole idea of generations has become obsolete. It no longer matters.
It actually didn't matter before.
Well, it didn't matter before, but it really doesn't matter now. When I work with team leaders, we talk a lot about motivation, what it is, and what motivates each of us. And there are several needs that are pretty common across all people. One of those needs is a need to belong. Everybody has a need to belong to something. Because now belonging has to mean I'm a valued part. People appreciate what I bring to the team. I'm sorry?
And I have a voice.
Right, you have a voice. And so isn't it probably more important to understand who those people are on your team rather than simply when they were born? I hear people talking now, they say, Generation Z is. They will be like this. Folks, they're 18 years old at the oldest. Yeah. How many of you would like to be judged by what you were when you were 18 years old? How about if we learn how to work together and develop something where the whole team can communicate together? Diana, you had something. We've been on the road all day, and we wanted to sit down where it was quiet. And there wasn't anybody in the restaurant. We thought this was good. Ordered our food. And just as we ordered our food, the door flies open and in walk about 6 teenagers. We said, there goes our quiet evening. But it was kind of strange because they all sat there in a booth like this. All right? I don't know who they were talking to. Every once in a while, one of them would chuckle a little bit and show everybody else, and then they were back at it.
They're talking to each other.
They may have been, yes, very much, very likely. Talking to each other. But here's the thing. They could have been doing that at home. They could have been doing that anywhere else. But they chose to come together to do it. There's still a need for human interaction. Are you comfortable telling your team what to hold you responsible for? Are you?
Not necessarily.
A little hesitant here. Wait a minute. I'm in charge here. You're responsible to me, not the other way around. Right? Well, not really. Because you have a responsibility to the team as well. If you expect the team to show up on time, guess what? You probably ought to show up on time. Seems like a simple concept. You'd be surprised how many times people don't get that. What do you do when you tell the team what they can expect from you? What are you telling them? Are you telling them that maybe you're not superior to them, but there to help them succeed? Accountability is something that leaders have a real problem with. We see this in the news every day. So what are you accountable for? That's what leadership is all about. It's working with other people to accomplish something. Understand yourself, know your values, understand the purpose of your team. Why are you there? And probably most important is know and understand your people. Because they're the ones that are going to make you succeed or fail. One of the most important parts of your leadership philosophy has to do with how you interact with other people. We've asked you to write a little bit about how you want people to communicate with you. Now, refer back to your hardwired profile, and you'll see that not everybody expects the same communication from everybody else. Still, you're supervising a team that puts the final coating on the widget that your company sells. This coating is a fantastic invention, and it makes all my fault. So Gail, OSHA's involved. Oh, yeah. Because this is a pretty nasty spill of hazardous material. So you want to get ahead of things. You want to get in front of this. So you talk to Susan, who's your head scientist, your chemist. In fact, she was involved in creating the chlorofluorol stuff. Yeah. So you tell her, go find out, go investigate. Well, Susan's very diligent. And she finds that David's training a little lacking. And then she goes a little deeper, and she finds out that it's not just David. Apparently everybody in that whole team has a little bit of a problem. Their training records are not up to date. You're not really sure what training has occurred. Who's responsible for that? Who's accountable for that?
The buck stops here.
You guys obviously read ahead. Thank you for that. But this is such a hard thing for leaders to understand. You're right. You're accountable for everything that happens in your company. And OSHA's going to explain that to you. Unfortunately.
That's why I want to get ahead of it.
That's right. But that doesn't mean that you let Lucille off the hook.
Oh,
You can't, oh no. You can't say, well, I'm responsible for this, so Lucille is okay. Because obviously she's got a problem in her team. Just as Lucille has accepted responsibility for what happened on her team, she doesn't necessarily have to let David off the hook, who no longer works for your company. This is such a hard thing for leaders to understand. It's very easy to stand up and say, yeah, this is me when your team succeeds, which, by the way, is a thing you don't want to do. But it's a lot harder, and it really is, to stand up and say, I'm accountable. It was hot. Has anybody ever been where it's 130 degrees or more every day?
Not every day.
No.
Not any day.
And I wish you could have been there with me to feel that oppressive heat. And the wind, 35 miles an hour or more, every day, sun up to sun down. It brought the smell of jet fuel and oil and sand. Lots of sand. Kind of stings a little. But you have to remember that the free exfoliation It's one of the benefits of being at the undisclosed location. As you're standing there in that blast furnace, you notice it's kind of dark, which seems a little odd because there hasn't been a cloud in the sky for months. So you look at your watch, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is what you see. What is this thing about motivation? How do I do that? Why aren't my people motivated? How am I supposed to get them motivated? And what's this thing about engagement? Gallup tells us that 2/3 of our people aren't even engaged. Why is that? What do I do about it? Is there some connection between this motivation thing and this engagement thing? And by the way, I've got all these different people in my office, in my company. I've got old people, I've got young people. They can't communicate, they don't understand each other. I don't even think they like each other. How am I supposed to create a motivational environment? I'm going to show you a model that will show you how to create that kind of an environment that leads to employee engagement. What is motivation? Is that motivation? No, it's not.
It's motivation to leave.
This can cause behavior change. This can maybe get somebody to do what you want, but it's not motivation. In fact, let me ask you a question. Can you motivate other people?
No.
What happens when you've accomplished that and you feel good about yourself? Increase your self-esteem, right? What happens next?
Bigger challenges.
Bigger challenges, yeah.
Exactly.
What did they say?
We want bigger challenges.
You're looking for something else. It's almost a drug. It really is. You've accomplished something and you're ready to move on.
Did you find in this challenge thing with millennials that they prefer to work in groups on a challenge? Because what I have found is that you take, if the challenge is as an individual, they don't do as well. I find that they ask for a lot of direction and they ask for a lot of kind of
This is
support.
beyond this particular piece here, but from a leadership perspective, you need to do that. Because if you're looking at future leaders, you can't have people that can only work in a group. You've got to have people that can work independently. But, and here's the hard part, you don't want people who only work independently. I was sitting in my office, my secretary walked in. Wonderful lady, I miss her so much. She came in and she said, I think you need to join Mensa.
That's a
She says, you know what Mensa is, right? I said, yeah, I know what it is. She said, well, I think you need to do it. I thought to myself, okay, I'll play along with this and see where this is going. I said, okay, what are the qualifications? Well, you have to score a certain number on your IQ test. I don't know what it is.
160. I
And,
only make it to Densa.
and you have to be sponsored by a Mensa member. Don't get ahead of me. Then she looked at me and she said, I would be happy to sponsor you. My secretary just walked in my office and told me that she was smarter than me, which probably was true. In fact, I know it was. It doesn't matter when you were born. If you want to be successful, if you really want to bring your team together, if you want your company to thrive, forget the generations. Yeah, we like to categorize things. We like those nice, neat boxes. And it is important to understand where people come from, to learn a little bit about their history. But never forget that it's not about those boxes. We don't work with categories. We work with people. And if you want to be successful, learn who those people are.